Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. Okay, so back to our outline. Now what we have today is how to draft a basic gown. Okay, so we'll be drafting a basic gown, then we'll also cut it and sew it. All right, so let's proceed. Now before we get into the drafting, gown or a dress is basically a half scale block and a skirt. Okay, so a quick reminder on what we have done so far. You guys remember our basic bodies block? Okay, and I told us that the half scale block simply stops on the waistline. Okay, on the half length or the waistline. So this is our basic bodies block. Okay, full scale. All right, now let me bring our basic skirt pattern. Okay, so this is our basic skirt pattern. Okay, now to make a dress is simple. We'll bring the skirt pattern to the waistline of the back pattern. Okay, so this is it. Now this is a dress. The same thing on the front as well. Okay, so this is the center front. All right, like so, and this is it. So I just need us to simplify our understanding. A basic gown is simply a half scale block, okay, and a basic skirt block. By the time you bring them together, it becomes a gown. All right, now that we have this explanation out of the way, let's jump right into the drafting of a basic gown. Okay, so let's start. Now we're going to be quick with this one. Okay, so the shoulder we're working with is shoulder 16, and as usual, before we proceed, we are going to label this block. Okay, so this is our front. Okay, and this is our back. So let's proceed. Now we're working with a shoulder of 16. Okay, 16 inches divided by 2 will give us 8. So I'll go ahead and mark my 8 inches here. Okay, remember our neck width of 3 by 3. Okay, 3 inches neck width and 1 inch neck depth, and I told us that this is a standard. Now to get your own, you're simply going to divide your bust round by 12. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same thing on the front block as well. Okay, I'll mark my neck width of 3 inches, my shoulder of 8, okay, which is 16 inches divided by 2. Now I'm also marking my neck depth front 3 inches as well. Okay, now we'll go ahead and connect these. Now we'll go ahead and connect these marks. Okay, so I'll come in with my curve like so. Okay, and we'll connect it this way. Okay, so we're going to be highlighting our markings today. Okay, and here we have it. Now I will also connect our marks for the back. Okay, all right, and here we have it. Now the next thing we need to do is to mark our shoulder slope. And you guys remember I told us that the standard shoulder slope for the back is 1 inch. So from the starting point, I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll mark there. Okay, then I'll also come down from the starting point, okay, at our shoulder mark. Then for the front, the standard shoulder slope for the front is 1.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead and connect this shoulder slope to the neck width. Okay, you do that using a straight line. All right, I'll repeat the same thing on the back as well. Okay, and here we have it. The next thing we need to do is to mark our chest line. And to get your chest line, you're simply going to divide your bust round by 6 and you add 1.5 inches. Now my bust round is 40. 40 divided by 6 plus 1.5 will give us 8.1 inches. So we're going to place that measurement from the back. Okay, so I'll place it on the shoulder slope. Okay, and I'll mark my 8.1 inches. Okay, because we need this line to run across this block, I will take the tape to the starting point. Okay, and measure it down to that 8.1 that we just marked, and what we have here is 9.1. Okay, like so. So I'll go ahead and mark this 9.1 across this block. Okay, and I'll come in with my ruler to connect these points together. Here we have it. So this is our chest line, and you guys know, as usual, we'll go ahead and label. So we'll call it our CH. Okay, so this is our chest line. Now let's proceed. The next thing we need to do on that chest line, we will remark our shoulder measurement, and we're working with a shoulder of 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I'll mark it on the back block. I'll also mark it on the front block as well. Now we'll come in with a straight with our ruler, okay, and we're going to connect. And I showed us when we're drafting our half scale block how to make sure that you have a straight line. Okay, so we're using a broken line to connect this mark because we actually don't make use of it. Okay, so I'll repeat the same thing on the back block as well. I'm using a broken line to connect the marks. Okay, and here we have it. Now let's proceed to mark all our vertical measurements. You guys remember our measurements when we took our measurement on the mannequin. Okay, so let's mark our vertical measurements. Now let's start from the front. So the first measurement we are marking is my bust point line. Okay, and that is 10.5. My front length is 18, which you can also call my half length, okay, or my waistline. So it's 18 inches. If you pay attention, the tape is still on the starting point. Okay, so from the starting point, which automatically is our shoulder line, okay, I will measure down to my hip. All right, so from my shoulder to my hip measurement is 27 inches. Okay, I'll make a mark there. Then to the desired dress length is 50 inches. Okay, so we're making a midi dress. Now I'll repeat the same measurement on this side as well, okay, so that we'll get a straight line. So I'll mark bust points 10.5, half length or front length 18 inches, hip length 27 inches, okay, and the dress length is 50 inches. Now we'll go ahead and connect these marks. Okay, and here we have it. Now let's go ahead and label as well. So this is my bust point line, we'll call it BP. Okay, and now this is my half length, okay, or my front length, so we'll label it this way. Now this is my hip line. All right, and that's it for the front. Now let's move over to the back. So now let's move over to the back. So for the back, on the back block, the first thing we're measuring is my back length. Now my back length is 15.5. okay, so my front length is 18, my back length is 15.5. the difference is 2.5. You guys remember our measurements. Okay, your front length and your back length is never the same. All right, for an adult. Now my back length is 15.5, so my back length is 15.5. I'll repeat the same mark here. Okay, 15.5. Now we'll go ahead and connect this mark. Okay, so this is my back length. Okay, so we'll call it BL, or your back half length. All right, now I'm taking it one step at a time so that we'll understand. Now to get your hip length for the back, okay, what we're going to do is simple. you come to the front block, okay, you measure from your front length to the hip length. What we have here is 9 inches, okay. So we'll come back here to the back and we'll mark the exact 9 inches. Okay, and here we have it. So this is our hip line, okay, for the back, okay. Now to the full length, okay, we have, okay, so I already have my marking on the front, okay. So my full length is 50 inches. Okay, so for the full length for the back, okay, we're going to do the same thing that we did to get the hip line. You place your tape on the hip line and measure it to the hem, okay, or to the dress length. What we have here is 23 inches. Now you come back to the back block, place your tape on the hip line, okay, like so, and you measure that 23 inches, okay, and we'll make a mark there. So I'm repeating the same thing here. Now I'll go ahead and connect these measurements. Okay, now I'll also label it. I'll also label it as the dress length. So we'll call it DL. Okay, so this is the dress length also for the front. All right. Now, if you guys notice, all the back measurements are shorter by 2.5 inches, which is the difference between the front length and the back length. Okay, and here we have it for all our vertical measurements. Now we'll proceed to impute our round measurements. So the bust round we're working with is 40. 40 divided by 4 will give us 10. Now this is the center front line, okay. So this is the center front line, we'll call it our CF, okay, and this is the center back line. All right, so we'll place our tape from the center front line, okay. We're placing our tape on the chest line. All right, so on the chest line, I'll place my tape like so, and I'll make a mark on the 10 inches. Now we'll come down to the waist. The waist round we're working with is 36. 36 divided by 4 will give us 9 inches. I have my tape also from the center front, okay, and we'll go inwards like so, and I'll mark my 9 inches. All right, so the hip we're working with is 44. So 44 divided by 4 will give us 11. Now I'll place my tape also from the center front and I'll mark 11 inches, okay. But I want to introduce us to something. It's called ease on the block, okay. So for this dress, I would like to add 0.25 as my ease on the block. So on my hip line, I'm adding ease on the block, okay. So I'm adding 0.25 on this hip line as my ease on this block, okay. So this is the only place I want to add my ease. All right, now we'll go ahead and connect these measurements. So we'll connect my bust round to my waist. Now I'll connect from my waist to my hip. Okay, so for the shaping around the knee, you guys remember our basic skirt. So for this one, I'm going to make use of 2 inches for my shaping, and to do that, we'll measure what we have here on the hip line. What we have here on the hip line is 11.25. I'm going to subtract 2 inches from that, so that will give us 9.25. So I'll come to the hem of the skirt. Okay, so I'll come to the hem of the dress and I'll mark my 9.25. Okay, I'll come in with my ruler, okay, and I'll connect from the hip to the 9.25 that we have on the hem, like so. And here we have it for the front. Now let's move over to the back. Now I told us that I like to tighten the center back before I take my round measurements, okay. So on the center back, I'll come in by 1/2 inch, okay, So we're using half an inch to tighten the center back. All right. Now we're going to connect that half an inch to the neck depth of the back. Okay. So we're connecting it this way. Okay, let me highlight it. Okay, and here we have it. Now we're going to extend this marking to the hip line. Okay, so from the hip line we'll come up by 2 inches. Okay, and we will extend the back tightening to that 2 inches mark, like so. Okay, and here we have it. We have tightened the center back. All right, so let's proceed to mark our round measurements. So the bust round we're working with is 10. Now I'm placing my tape after the tightening. Okay, so I'll go ahead and mark my 10 inches. Okay, so on the back length, the waistline we're working with is 9 inches. Okay, now we'll also add our 1 inch dart, okay, to the waistline. Now I omitted the dart on the waistline, okay, of the front, but we'll still come back and add it. Okay, so the hip line, on the hip line we'll also mark our 11.25. okay. Now we'll go ahead and connect these measurements. So I'll go ahead and connect these measurements. Now this is the essence of drafting with pencil, so that if there's any correction you can easily do that. Okay, so I'm connecting my measurements. Now however your own comes out, you take it like that because it's your measurement. All right, so to tighten the hem of the skirt as well for the back, we're also going to subtract 2 inches from this hip round measurement. What we marked here, you will first come to your hip line, measure all you have here. What we have here is 11.25. Now we'll subtract 2 inches from it and it will give us 9.25. But unlike the front that we subtracted the 2 inches complete, okay, for the back we're going to divide that 2 inches. So we're dividing the 2 inches into 2, and that will give us 1 inch each. Okay, so we'll come here on the hem of the skirt. Okay, so I'll come there and I'll first mark the 11.25. You guys remember our method for the basic skirt. So I'll mark the 11.25 first, then we will come in by 1 inch on this side, and from the center back line we're also coming in by 1 inch. Now we'll also come in with our ruler to connect the measurements. Okay, so we're connecting from the hip line to the 1 inch that we came in with. Okay, we'll repeat the same thing also here on the center back. Okay, and here we have it on the waistline. Okay, I'll go ahead and add my dart allowance. Okay, so the dart I want to add, the dart allowance I want to add on the waistline is 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and add that. Okay, so our waistline, the waist we're working with is 36 divided by 4 will give us 9 inches. Now we'll go ahead and add 1.5 inches for the dart allowance. Okay, and here we have it. Now I'll come in with my ruler as well, and I'll connect to the hip line, and I'll also reconnect it back to our chest line. Okay, okay, and here we have it. Now I know the measurement looks funny, but that's my measurement. All right, so let's proceed. let's connect our arm side, okay, or what we popularly know as our armhole curve, okay. And for the front, from the chest line, we will come up by 3 inches, okay, and at that point we will go in by 0.75, okay. So we'll go ahead and connect. So we'll go ahead and connect from the shoulder tip to the 0.75, like so, okay, with a straight line. Then we'll come in with our curve to finish that up, okay. So you place your curve, ensuring that it passes through your marks, okay, this way. All right, and here we have it. Our arm side or our armhole round or our armhole curve for the front is ready. Now for the back, we will measure what we have there. What we have here is 8 inches, and we'll mark the midpoint, which is 4, and at that point we'll come in by half an inch. Also, we're connecting from the shoulder tip to the half an inch, okay, this way. Then we'll come in with our curve ruler. So come in with our curve ruler like so, and we'll finish that up nicely, okay. And here we have it. Now let's move over to our darts, okay. So my bust span is 8 inches, and 8 inches divided by 2 is 4. Now on the bust point line, I'll go ahead and mark my 4 inches, okay. I'll also mark it on the half length or on my front length. Now I'll also mark it on the hip line, okay. So here we have it. Now on the hip line, we're going up by 2 inches, okay. The dart is not supposed to run into the hip line, so we're going to connect these markings. We're going to connect these marks like so. Remember, we're stopping 2 inches before the hip line, and here we have it. Now remember our allowance of 1.5 inches, we're going to divide that into 2. That will give us 0.75 on each side. So I'll go ahead and mark 0.75 on the left and 0.75 on the other side, okay. And here we have it. Now it's time for us to connect our darts, okay. So right, and our darts for the front is ready. We're going to repeat the same thing on the back as well. So we'll mark on the hip line our bust span of 4 inches. On the waist line, okay, we're also marking our bust span of 4 inches, okay. On the chest line, we're also marking our dart of 4 inches. Now from the chest line, we'll come down by 1 inch, okay. And from the hip line also, we're coming up by 2 inches. So we'll go ahead and connect these marks, okay. Here we have it. Now our dart allowance is 1 inch for the back, and we're dividing that into 2, so that will give us 0.5 and 0.5. So I'm connecting to our 0.5 this way. Okay, and here we have it. Our gown is almost ready. Now let's mark our bust dart. So the difference between my front length and my back length is 2.5 inches. Okay, so I'll go ahead and place my tape from the bust point line. Okay, and I'll make a mark on my 2.5 inches. Now I'll come in with my straight ruler. Okay, I'm connecting from the bust point to the 2.5 inches this way, and here we have it. Now our basic gown is ready. All right, I think that deserves some drum roll. So our basic gown is ready. Okay, I'll go ahead and use our marker to highlight these lines, okay, so that it can be visible for us. All right, guys, so our basic gown is ready. So this is the basic gown block. All right. Okay, so if you want to just make a simple basic gown, it's simple. Just cut this out, transfer to your fabric, add your allowances. All right, and that's it. Okay, now for the slit. Okay, now the standard slit is 7 inches. So from the hem of the skirt you will come up by 7 inches. Okay, and then you can decide how wide you want your slit, whether 1 inch or 1.5. Okay, so you can make use of 1 inch, and you will just connect it this way. Okay, you also measure your 1 inch here. All right, and you will just connect. Okay, and this is your slit. If it's 1 inch that you want or 1.5, it all depends on you. All right, okay, so the basic gown block is ready. This is it. All right, so any alteration you want to make is going to be from this, okay, and nothing more. All right, so this is it. Now we will proceed to alter this, okay, to our dress. All right, guys, so in our next class we will be altering this basic gown to a beautiful dress.